I've never. Hi, everybody. Yes, yes. Hi. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Olivia Tamakis, and I'm the poetry editor in chief of Origin Stories. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I know the weather was horrible earlier today, so it really means a lot that you all came through to support this anthology. I wanted to start off the night by talking a little bit about how this book started. My co-editor Vidisha Ghosh, she's in India right now, but we first met in the Masters for Creative Writing at Edinburgh Uni. But before we met in the cohort, we met in the hallway because we lived in the same flat. And yeah, it was such a pleasure living with Vidisha. We became really close friends. And we were chosen as the co-editors for the From Arthur's Seat anthology, which is the cohort that the Masters for Creative Writing puts out every year. And you know, it was so much fun working with Vidisha the first time. When we were graduating, we offered up an idea to do a second anthology, and Ryan with Force Publishing gave us the okay. So that is the second pancake that you're hopefully holding in your hands tonight at some point. And tonight we have 6 amazing readers from the anthology. But before I introduce all of them, because Vidisha can't be here, like I said, she's in India, and I think too many people have heard my joke about the Uber being too expensive. I won't use that again. I did want to read her introduction to the book, her note from the editor. 3 months ago, I moved into a little room on the roof. Old Delhi tongues call this a barsati, blocks of concrete that bloom in silence, yet they nurture lives within them. The wind carries stories from these barsatis. Its inhabitants traverse seasons of hope and despair, obstinate warriors shedding old skins, slipping into itchy new ones, breaking apart on hot floors and regrowing like saplings at dawn. As we cultivated this poignant anthology, and I grew accustomed to life in this strange chamber, I was constantly reminded of the countless, often forgotten beginnings dotting the canvas of our being. We hunt for a definitive starting point, a singular and dramatic rupture in time. But birth can be plural, can exist in the shadows. The first glimpse of snow-capped mountains or an old song on a new morning. In origin stories, powerful creative voices plunge their hands into a bottomless tumbler of ebbs and flows. They look deep into the maze of creation, seek that moment which set everything in motion. Vidisha Ghosh. Tonight we are missing Patrick McCafferty and Moira McPartlin, but we are joined by 2 other excellent writers, so I'm really happy that they said okay to me a bit last minute. I'm going to start off the evening just by saying as well, we have both poets and prose writers, so if you want to hold your applause to after they finish their whole set for each person, that would be really nice. And we're going to start with Kinsley Sykes. Kinsley is a writer originally from Salmon, Idaho. She has a bachelor's in history of art and visual culture and recently graduated with a master's of science in creative writing from the University of Edinburgh. She currently resides in Edinburgh. Kinsley Sykes.
Hello. I have 3 poems. I'm going to read the one from the anthology and then 2 more that I've already previously written that I thought kind of fit the theme of origins. So this first one is Critique of Origin Through a Search Engine. It's on page 21, if you'd like to follow along. Critique of Origin Through a Search Engine. 1999 calendar, 9th and Main parking lot. Young girl screaming Vine. Why does nothing taste good anymore? Citizen Kane ending explained. smallest town in the world, maybe etymology, Virginia Slims. How do I know if I'm good looking? Rug under coffee table, something to put shoes in. How to publish a book through a big company, Simon and Schuster. How to become a pilot, new episodes of Jeopardy. Are they still making Jeopardy? Are most people dumb? Is every person related? What to do when someone dies, Scotland. How to get rid of fruit flies. How to make new friends in your 20s. GS87QUISGWQUFTG78UVDYUI. How to get your cat to stop stepping on your keyboard. Are my feelings hurt? How to feel active, energetic, whole day. Tintoretto, Cubism. Is it normal to hate my handwriting? How communicate well? Goosebumps, goosebumps. What's the song that says, ooh, girl? How to get out of coffee stain? Were humans meant to live this long? Are humans more aggressive than dogs? How to bare your teeth? And then this next one is called Island of Stability. There's a man selling fruit on the highway, vastly tall and a sunk journalist. The sling around his neck holds up a box filled with glowing, moist cherries and figs and lemons. The moon makes him look like a traffic sign, and business is bad at night for those who linger under the rogue stars and pray not to get hit. Imagine neon fruit viscera turns the road into a disco pattern, passengers getting out to dance on the loose citrusy skin, a giant sobbing off to the side who couldn't afford to lose this precious source of income. Now still pacing the same stretch of distance back and forth, collecting coins in a breast pocket. He has forgotten where he lives, what language he speaks, his own first name. And this last one is called the Wild West. I am a horse in the desert, down on my back and breathing heavy. My master lurches over me, sweat drips off his brow into my nostrils. His large hat casts a shadow over my eyes. In his hands is a large slice of pizza, the greasy box somewhere behind him, no doubt gathering dust. He tries to get me to open up, to receive the oily mass, but I'm on my back, waiting to snap and snap with my long amber teeth. My master coaxes me, as he is known to do, strokes my velvety nose. He points to a cactus, telling me without words to be careful not to roll on it. My master really looks out for me. And so, okay, maybe I want the pizza now. Maybe it would be just fine. I show my teeth a bit, open a space between them. My master jolts at the chance, delicately shoves the hot triangle between my horse lips, and it feels like rain going down. The salt of the cheese lingers on my tongue, but it's the sweetness of the tomato that reminds me I actually do like vegetables, even when I think I don't. And that's me.
Thank you so much, Kinsley. I remember when I first read Kinsley's piece that's in the anthology, that last line, how to bare your teeth, it really stuck with me. And I realized on maybe the 17th read that I hadn't spell checked bare. But eventually we did fix it to the correct spelling. Yeah, so it should be right now in the book, how to bare your teeth. The next reader that we have is Liam Lucille, right? I was lucky enough to study with Liam in the cohort at Edinburgh. Liam Lucille is a poet originally from Strasbourg, France, currently studying a creative writing PhD on queer eco-poetry at the University of Edinburgh. They enjoy writing in experimental forms about queerness, ecology, cats, crows, and dreamscape environments, sometimes all at once. Liam Lucille has been published in From Arthur C., Orange Peel Literary Magazine, Ouch Collective, and Beyond the Veil Press. They can occasionally be spotted reading at different poetry open mic events across Edinburgh and browsing the poetry sections at Lighthouse Books and Typewriter. Liam Lucille.
Hello. I'm going to start by reading the poem in the collection. So that should be page 31. Yeah, that's right. And I suppose this ties into origin stories and its association with nostalgia, but also growing out of childhood and sort of loosely tying that into a climate change context. But yeah, this is What Won't Return. Sucking up the sludge of melted ice cubes in lemonade, nostalgia freezes onto my tongue. I recall chewing snow, the numb minty grip racing the back of my teeth as a child. Every year a new flavor, scooped into growing hands. The glove balls got thinner, crystals smaller in my palms. Now they never settle on my fingers or in the nooks of my brain, thawing away in ever milder winters. My knees will never vanish into damp cotton again. Now the closest I can get is ice snapping underfoot. I swig the last drops, pictures of tracks in 3-foot deep drift, sliding away with my drink. I stand, the earth far frailer, and my legs much heavier than they ever were before. So my next poem is called Strange Sisters, and it's about my cats. Specifically my cats back home. I mainly chose this one because one of my cats, Lulu, she is going into surgery next week Thursday for a tumor in her right ear canal, and I'm sort of wishing her the best through this. So this is Strange Sisters, home, Superversign, 1:45 to 2:15 Central European Time. Sprawled on my lap, forehead tucked in the crook of my leg, Lulu relaxes out of her age. Her 13 years, her missing canines, only odd suggestions of an elderly lady among gurgling purrs and baby blue eyes, smiling the very same smile as when we first stared open-hearted at each other's faces. The same wear on the same shelves. I recall my sisters chasing the days in endless laps around the house. All the while, Effie lies on her side, her black and white fur bold as ever, her muscles steady with her breathing. I strike her sides as she dozes soundly on her favorite blanket, still the wizened young one of the pair. She trails softly, an old woman in gentle appreciation. Ooh, thank you, dear. Familiar dust in familiar nooks. I don't remember leaving my sisters, only returning to this scene. Time contorts inside out in the living room. Distant bird song. Shed hairs set in the sunlight. Thank you. This next one is one part of a multi-part poem called Passengers. This particular section is sort of set on a walk near my hometown. Yeah, it's a walk that I had with my mum over the holidays. So this is Passengers. Fields south of the Super River, Superversign, 4:10 to 5:15 Central European Time. Neon spray-painted markers and red-white polythene tape jag out from dark grass into our vision, flailing the way to a patch of woods ahead. Come the cops, our voices fold back into our mouths, our whispers are held in pine branches, thickets, moss and birch leaves. Stumbling through brambles, the sound of our thrashing pushes, wood pigeons up from tree crowns, jeers out of jaylons. Amidst the foliage's thicket appear pinpricks of auburn, bronze and tan, propagating before our retinas, mushrooms, phosphines sprouting from wood chips, and the marcescent mulch sighing silently into itself. Our pupils splay ever wider, endlessly absorbing bright spots in the bracken. Bodies building houses of their own, hyphae, mycelium, and caps cradled up in damp breaths and timid guts. Spores are scattered into the nooks of roots, birdwings, polyblend shoelaces, sinus hairs, and tracheas. May they glow and subsist on the forest of us, take root in our heart, take flight with our every breath. This last one, if I'm still good for time, is called The Body of the Place. And this one is set in Dowrai Cemetery. If any of you have been, though I feel like it does actually apply to a lot of cemeteries in Edinburgh, in just how, personally, I find them just really beautiful, specifically the ones that are really overgrown and just strewn with like half-ruined gravestones, and the paths are all completely twisted because everything's just been built on top of everything else, and trees and vines are growing into everything, and it's not really, there's no clear line between what's constructed and what's grown. Yeah, I suppose this ties into Origins in the sense that, yeah, it's sort of an endpoint to it, but also not, in terms of how everything grows from a graveyard. But yeah, The Body of the Place. Dowrai Cemetery, Edinburgh, 4 to 6 p.m. Taste the engine exhaust and last night's rain, mulling in the back throats of walkers. The wet sucking of their rubber soles seep with car alarm wails through the cemetery wall. Sense me. Above sunlit lace wings, the obelisks grow twined with the catkin, wild and bent. Ruined crypts echo the steady sighs of a cold front rippling through oak leaves, nettles and damp ivy. A lung's memory. Breathe me. Whiskey fungus, car soot, and crustos lichen press into the body of the place. Kiss, headstones, trace spidery ridges and willow bark. Bottled polyester trinkets, the outside in, melding with dog hairs, Uarl's gesture, take me. Magpies chatter ecstasy, girls moan bliss, robins vogue for rats and broken angels. A garden Philistine, euphoric from its own loving desecration, dances a plea, change me. War dead and worms tumble out of rotten coffins, curling into each other. Husbands holding unwedded, holding husbands, holding beetles, holding wives, be mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love Liam Lucille's poems. They always feel quite sensory. So whether it's, moss or snow or cats, I always feel like I can really feel whatever they're writing about. So nice. Our next reader tonight is Elizabeth de Cook. Elizabeth received her master's in creative writing from the University of Edinburgh, the same cohort as us, but just with prose instead of poetry. Born and raised in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, she currently lives in the northeast of England. Her work is forthcoming or has appeared in the Tahoma Literary Review, the Baltimore Review, So to Speak, and others. She can be found on Twitter at Liz de Cook. Elizabeth.
Hi. So I'm going to be reading We Kissed Under the Mess Hall Lamp, which is on page 79 of the anthology. And this is a short story, obviously not a poem. We kissed under the mess hall lamp, except it wasn't a kiss, not really. Our lips bumped together hard enough that I worried the skin would bruise, our cheeks sliding smooth across each other as we moved into a hug. I held him tight, inhaling the scent of his body wash, sweet and sharp, which I would later learn was Axe. I could hear the buzz of mosquitoes above us, attracted to the light, and in the beam over his shoulder, I could see the shadowy flutter of moth wings. We can do better, he whispered, before taking my face gently in his hands. Those hands, just a few hours ago, that had been covered in mud that his boys gathered from China Lake. They were building a stove from scratch and had plans to make bread. I had watched him direct his charges, telling them where to dive. The bucket strained from the weight of silt and water, and eventually they collected enough and carried it up to camp to begin construction. His calluses were rough, and I wondered if I could later watch him knead, the dough coming together between his fingers, gentle but firm. He pressed himself to me. His tongue slipped inside, and I felt my legs go limp. We had been swimming in Lake St. George, a staff outing, when I realized that I wanted him. The water there was completely clear because there is no mud at the bottom, only solid rock. I perched my toes on slick stone and balanced, floating. I watched him emerge from the water, notice how it sluiced off his head and down his chest, pulled in the divots of his collarbone. I could have drunk from them. He pushed wet hair out of his eyes and stared at me, and I felt my whole being light on fire. A breeze tickled my chest, made me look down to see that one of my bikini straps had come undone, exposing me. Fingers shaking, I took my time to retie it. I wondered if I was going insane. I did not know I could want someone like that. I was 19 and never kissed, never touched, a late bloomer, they called me, which was nicer than being called a prude. I had walked the halls of school, wondering if everyone was lying to me about sex, questioning their insistence that it was wonderful, fun. To me, it seemed at best messy. I could not believe them until I was floating in that water, staring, feeling tiny waves lap at my goose-prickled skin. I put my hand up into his hair, fingered his curls, pulled him closer to me, as close as we could while still being able to breathe. The crickets grew loud in the cool night air. In Maine, there is no such thing as a muggy night, but I could have been fooled. I felt the heat all the way down to my fingertips, and I considered taking off my hoodie, not to be sexy or to show more skin, simply to cool down, not pass out. A week ago, a girlfriend and I had borrowed a car to take a day trip down to the beach, but it didn't have air conditioning. The heat grew till we were cooking like a roast in the oven. I felt nauseous and weak, and we pulled over so that she could pour lukewarm water on my face. Finally, we separated, lips moist, panting, smiling. We both took a small step back. I felt like popcorn was jumping around my stomach, knees wobbling. I felt giddy and warm and wanted him to kiss my hand like a gentleman. I wanted him to take me into the woods and do things I didn't know how to name. Maybe I was going crazy. We walked back to the cabins, silent, fingers brushing against each other. We did not kiss goodnight because we knew that we wouldn't have stopped. I slipped into my sleeping bag and listened to the slow breath of my girls, passed out from a day of running and swimming and screaming. In bed, I touched my lips with my thumb, trying to recreate the soft tingles. A trickle of sweat slipped down my face into my mouth, and I licked up the salt. The air was cold, but I was burning, and I kicked my sleeping bag off and walked outside, kept walking till I was out of camp and down at the muddy lake. I shed my pajamas and sunk into the cool water, wondering if it would boil around me. My toes squished in the mud. Tiny fish kissed my ankles. I laid my head back and watched the stars twinkle above me, feeling buoyant. The water licked my skin, and I floated. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I love that like nervous excitement from a first kiss, and I especially love how the character says their fingers shook, but they waited to retie that bikini strap, They knew what they were doing. Our next reader tonight is Alice Eves. Alice Eves is an artist and writer based in Edinburgh. She's been published with Moonflake Press, The Alchemy Spoon, The Lit Platform, and with Forest Publishing. She's editor-in-chief of the Ukraine Poetry Project and a Melbourne UNESCO City of Literature writer-in-residence. Alice Eves.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to read 3 poems as well, and I'm going to finish with the one in the anthology. That's okay. This one I'm kind of cursing myself for having really unusual forms, if I really want to read. Okay, so the first one is called Birthing Angelica. I open the nest of my legs and produce a flood of seed pods, small and crisp spring babies which sow root in the grass below. In a month, they'll be toddling shoots, teething on rainwater and pepper soil, building a fortress of leaves to shelter their sprouting buds. Once adults, they will learn the songs of pollen, taste bee sting, feel human fingers pluck eggshell petals to brew a tincture for bleeding cramps. As I curl towards the soil, ready for rest, a pink palm grazes the earth. I watch it dance through the swamp grass, hover over my children's blooms, but it pushes past their butter leaves to the white umbels of hogweed, and I know neither of us will see morning. And the second one I'm going to read is called Great Mother Moon, and it's after a painting by Corinne Rouget. I'm not going to try and pronounce the French. I kind of thought I can't. Okay. Her hammock, a back. Oh, I'm going to start again. Her back, a hammock for baby girls left to die in the drain pipes of a sickly city, or the roof of the family grain silo. Tiny fingers limp as charred spring onion stems from lack of sugar and breast milk. As they grow, she teaches curious eyes to decipher marjoram from oregano, to clean an open wound, read the face of an analog clock, that the word mother is not just for the person you were once tied to. She shows her tribe how to divine the future in black tea leaves, to navigate from the North Star, how baking soda brings out stains of red wine and turmeric. When the little chicks are hungry, she takes them to the night market for tempura crab and lemongrass skewers, while they wait by the roadside for a rabbit, which she teaches her trappers to cleave, skin, and roast. In the long autumn, cramped legs sprout like shoots, arms can whistle with a knife and cross a flowing river. From the calling of blood that now drips down teenage thighs, mother's ducklings will be ready to leave soon. She curls her baby's sticky bodies inside her viper tail and prays that the world has changed since she's found their pink bellies upturned in the muck. The last piece is on page 95 of the anthology. It's called The Lost Boys. We feral forest kids break bird bones quick, used carved warnings, wolves turn back, rabid raccoons enter at risk. We are lords of the woodland, backsides clad in badger pelts, grease slick hair woven with pheasant feather veils, pocked skin under swamp crud. We know the billbugs from the weevils, the paw patter of grizzles, the tinny sweet of fresh elk blood. We are the rivers, the fishes and fox cubs. We are where the soil gives birth to the wind. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Alice. Yeah, sometimes I wish we had some sort of projection to be able to see the poems at the same time, especially, when you like to play with form. If you see Alice's piece, it's kind of in the middle of the page, and there's something about how the poems break. It adds how the lines break. Sorry, adds something to the poem that's really special. So, our next reader is Tessa Bering. Tessa Bering is the author of Bitten Hair and Folded Purse from Blue Diode Press, of Putty from If a Leaf Falls Press, and Cut Glass and No Flowers from Dancing Girl Press. She also works in visual art, translation, and collaboration. Tessa.
Microphone. It's so nice to be here. I was especially delighted to be part of Forest Publishing, having been around at the very origins of the forest way back 100 years ago, when it was this kind of den of ethical iniquity down in the Westport, and now it's literature. So it's been a wonderful trajectory. I'm going to read 3 poems which come from my collection Bitten Hair. This one's called Home Ec. Knives aren't soft, but snow is soft. Hyacinths are real, and lips are soft. A moth is soft. Saliva is soft. Putty is hard. Nasturtiums soft. Stains are brown. Oranges are real. Words aren't bubbles. Bubbles are soft. Cups are red. Sheets are soft. Love isn't hard. Love isn't soft. Embrace me. skin is wiped clean, and my jeans fit well. And once I wrote about my dream with men in it, all cotton wool heads. I chopped them off, of course, which was bloody, like tampons, and my hands stank of dead petunia. It was a good story, nuanced and delicate, someone said, though they might not have meant it. It's a relief about skin being easy to wipe, and it's good having jeans all over my legs. I like lean words, like spirit, and lightly placed, unspeakable things. This poem is called Whole Bloody Endeavour. I could live on oranges, if that would work. But last night I was a rubber ball, and a star said, I bet you bought face cream last year. Which is correct. Lots and lots of face cream. Please don't be bored by my jokes about the snow. Everything starts dripping when the sun comes out. I keep sentences in vases. They last around 3 days. Feathers are not so-so. They are perfect. Feathers are not so-so. They are perfect. Even dishevelled, they are perfect. Even all wet. What am I saying? What do I know about perfection? About feathers? About all wet? God, nothing. I am making it all up. All of it. Don't leave. Please wait. Feathers are so muscular. And on ducks, and on pigeons, and on pelicans and wrens, and that Papua New Guinea wonder bird, the cassowary. Now the little poem here is near the end, it's on page 101. And thinking about this one, I don't know, I suppose one is always coming across, and origins are relentless. I just always have that sense that in a life we're moving along, and oh, here we are at another starting point, and another starting point, and there's that constant sense of starting again, but you never quite know when that's going to happen. And it's always like suddenly, oh, this is a different landscape. You wake up and you feel as though you're in a completely different world. So it was at the back of my mind, just that, change takes place. And this one is called The Happiest Day in the World Will Last a Day. I found the tiny house. I kissed the polished fireplace, the latticework chair, the mirror in the hall, the butter in the buzzing fridge. Outside, the weather shone and blew, then dribbled down the oak tree, as if nothing was about to explode. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tessa. I think you can do so much with so few words. And Vidisha and I agreed completely when we were making the anthology that the book should end with that like explosion, because at the time we just thought, it is kind of the start of something new, especially in the introduction. Harry Josephine Giles talks about kind of how the explosion is the start of a new beginning. And that theme is really throughout the anthology. So our final reader for the evening is Anne Foy. Anne Foy began writing in her 50s. She writes short stories and flash fiction for spoken word events. She has a wee collection, Threads, available on Amazon. Anne.
I did condense and contract some of this. You can read more of it than I thought. So it's not exactly as it is in the book. And if you think there's plagiarism at work here, you're absolutely right. It's called An Experiment. It was quiet in the firmament. The mighty Inanna was restless and wanted entertainment. She decided on an experiment. In the beginning, she had to decide on what and where, neither easy when there is infinity and eternity, but no boundaries. The what must be sturdy yet pliable, challenging yet manageable. No need, no, entertaining, yes. It would not be magnificent. He's turned 3 times this way, 3 times that, and pointed. She opened her eyes and saw that her finger was almost touching a little round object. Lilith said she had once visited that little round object. Things and creatures already grew there. She called these creatures Adam and said that they were unclean, uncouth, and ugly. She had been offended by them, so had flown off and gone to the black. Inanna looked closely and saw these creatures. Oh, who put them there? They were, as Lilith had said, they hit each other with rocks. She blew them off the little round object into infinity. Gone. The mighty one commanded that Mamiwata make water flow over the little round object. This water caused more things to grow, and some of these things Inanna called food for my creature. She disappeared. When she was ready, our divine Inanna gathered us together. She said she had a plan to make the little round object more interesting. She commanded that Bridget provide a torch, and Anahita was tasked with hanging a white shining bead when the flame died away. Our mighty mother ruled that there would be time, which was to mean that Bridget would bring her torches and Anahita would place her bead with something called regularity. It was a lot to take in. Inanna thought her creature into being, and after a tweak here and a tuck there, we all agreed that it looked like a very fine specimen. It was in our image. Its hair and skin were clean and it stood tall and straight. Inanna gave it voice and free will. Her name will be Yatta. It will mean she is who she is. We all agreed that this was an excellent name. Inanna was weary of her experiment for now. She disappeared. There was not much amusement to be had from a creature who lived sometimes in light and sometimes in darkishness. It took up food occasionally, but we were not entertained by that. Inanna swept back. She told us, I will make another creature. It will be called Animal. It will not be in our image. It will be a companion for my Yatta. Perhaps it will entertain us. This creature stood not as tall as Yatta, had 4 legs, long fur, and a thing called tail. It made sound, but did not have voice. Her queenliness placed this new creature on the little round object. We watched as the creatures approached each other. Yatta reached out and touched Animal, and they walked together to a stream and took water. Yatta showed Animal food and how to take it. From then, Yatta and Animal stayed close. They walked together and lay down together when the white bead shone. This was really boring. So Inanna decided, I will have another creature. It will be an Adam. Let's see if my Yatta can keep it clean and stop it from throwing rocks. And she thought this Adam into being. The Adam was in our image, but was indeed ugly. Lilith looked askance. She said nothing and flitted away into the black. It will be called Salsu because it is my third creature. It will have voice and free will. Surely we will have some entertainment at last. We watched in hope as Her Mightiness held this Salsu in her hand for us to see, and we laughed as it slipped through her fingers and fell with a bump onto the soggy surface of the little round object. Oops. Yatta, an animal, approached Salsu and welcome. Although a little dazed, the Adam picked up a rock and threw it. Yatta used voice. What does this mean? It means that you will not approach me unless I bid you. Are you the Almighty One? Of course I am. Help me up. Yatta did so, and Salsu pushed her away with its foot. Yatta felt sensations called pain and unhappy. Yatta told the Adam about pain and unhappy. It pushed her away once more and threw a rock. This was not the least bit boring, but we were uneasy. It cannot be wise to claim you are the Almighty One, nor to damage what the Almighty One has created. Aja said she would take Animal away from flying rocks, but Inanna would not allow it. At last she had entertainment, and we watched the creatures with interest as light and darkishness came and went with regularity. Salsu commanded that Yatta make a store of rocks. Yatta knew a thing called afraid. We watched. Salsu made its voice loud and commanded, give food, give water, and told Yatta that she must make a covering for herself because her appearance was not pleasing. We watched as Yatta, who did not like pain, made a covering fashioned from growing things and hair gifted by Animal. The magnificent Inanna grew taller, and her beautiful eyes widened. She did not speak. We knew whose creature Yatta was, and that our great mother must be glorified for the appearance of her creature. The Adam must be confused. I gave my creature free will, and she has not used it. I am weary of it. She disappeared. Now Salsu commanded that Yatta and Animal find other food, for it had grown tired of what grew nearby. It threw rocks after them as they hurried away. Yatta found another food that clung to a tall growing thing. She bit into it and liked it well. She no longer felt fear nor unhappy, and using her free will, she chose not to take this food to Salsu. She and Animal returned to the Adam, who lay with eyes closed in soft mud. It did not stir. Yatta walked to the store of rocks and carried the biggest one back to the Adam. She dropped it on Salsu's face. It made loud voice and seemed to want to stand, but Yatta pushed it down. She lifted the rock and dropped it on Salsu's face. It made voice again, softer now. Yatta did this more until the Adam lay still and silent, sunk deep into the soggy earth. Yatta and Animal walked to water and drank. We heard laughter as the Queen of All returned. My Yatta has used her free will at last. I am pleased. Lilith, bring her to me. And animal? Leave it there. Lilith swept down and returned with the creature. Yatta, you are my creature, and at last you have pleased me. Now you will live here among the great ones. You will be made beautiful, and you will obey only me. Animal? There is no place here for animal. The crone Matcha will throw a little round object and all it contains to the farthest far. We began a welcoming, but Yatta said, no, I will not stay here. I will be with animal. Entertainment indeed. Inanna's laughter rocked the heavens. We do not think you're being cautious with your free will, creature, but go and be gone. Matcha, dispose of my experiment at once. And so it was done. Matcha swept the creature back to the little round object, and she sent all trace of this experiment spinning into the farthest far. Whoosh! It was quiet in the firmament. The great Inanna was restless and wanted entertainment. She decided on an experiment. With no boundaries. We have infinity, eternity, limitlessness, and no compassion. Thank you.
So nice. Thank you so much, Anne. I love hearing her read. We just, by chance, were at an open mic that Hadley had organized, and I mentioned the submissions for this anthology. So I was really lucky to be in the right place at the right time for Anne to hear about the submission and send us that story. So those are all of our readers for the night. I really want to thank all of you for coming out. It's been so nice to spend this evening with all of you. I want to thank all of the readers who were able to make it and who shared their work with us. I want to thank Lighthouse and the whole team here for setting up this evening and for live streaming it. They've been such a help throughout this whole process. And I want to thank the people who helped with the book as well, the blurb writers, Mohammed Tanzi, Jane Alexander, Claire Askew, Babaka Govil, who has a book coming out with Penguin in India, by the way. And also Harry Josephine Giles, who wrote our introduction. I want to thank Ryan and the Forest team for allowing Vidisha and I to make this book a reality. But mostly I just want to thank all of you. It's so nice to be in this sort of space again and being able to share in a reading of poems and short stories. So just thank you so much for coming out tonight. Feel free to hang around and buy a few books, maybe 5, I don't know, and enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you.